I do wear them. I do wear them. I take pictures because it's really hard for you guys to see them. Yes, I do wear them, though.
Every week.
I was wearing last week, so you'll notice that I didn't take a picture of, I actually have my cubicle mate take a picture of my socks in the morning. But last week I didn't have a picture of them on because they were actually, I don't know if you noticed, they're the shape of a jersey. And it's easier to see when they were flat. Okay. Okay, so like I mentioned, we're going to cover the last of the 9 graduation requirements, which are major and minor requirements. So first of all, what is a major? So a major represents an area of specialized study that will provide you with extensive knowledge of the subject matter and its organizing concepts. So if you flip to page 90 in the catalog, and on the left-hand side, you can see that's where it starts the major and minor requirements. So every major is going to include the following. Every major has preparation for the major courses. These are 100 through 200 level courses, and these courses are the lower division that build the solid foundation the student needs for the more specialized upper division courses. Any courses that are required for preparation for the major, we also refer to this as prep for the major, and that are also in general education can double count for both prep and lower division GE. Some majors require a lot of prep, some majors require a very little amount of prep. And you find that information in the catalog under the major page. Every major has upper division major courses. These are those 300 through 500 level courses. Any courses 300 through 499 that are required for the upper division major that are also in GE can double count for both upper division major and upper division GE. Does anyone know why I made a specification on that 300 and 400 level?
Because 500 level classes don't have to be.
That's absolutely correct. So if there's a 500 level course in major, it's not going to be able to double count in GE because those don't exist in GE. Every major has impaction requirements. So you're going to be hearing a lot of that this summer. So what is impaction? A major is impacted when there are more students that wish to declare the major than the major can accommodate. So impaction criteria can include preparation for the major courses, a minimum GPA, and a minimum number of units. Impaction criteria must be met in order to declare the upper division major. So a student cannot enter the upper division major until they have finished the impaction criteria. SDSU is considered an impacted campus, so therefore every major at SDSU is impacted, and every major will have their own set of impaction criteria. And you can find that, when we'll go over that, but you can find it under each major page in the catalog. Many majors require a higher GPA as part of the impaction GPA. Okay, so we talked about minimum GPA is 2.0, but many majors require a higher GPA than that. So for example, a business student needs a 2.9 as part of their impaction criteria. A mechanical engineering student needs a 2.7 as part of their impaction criteria. And remember, all impaction criteria must be met in order to declare the upper division major. So if a student has finished all the other impaction criteria, but they do not meet the GPA, they won't be able to declare the upper division major. Does that make sense? Yes.
So they won't be able to take any classes. Will they still be able to take classes that are like listed under the major, or are they barred from taking any of those classes?
Usually not. It depends on the department. Some departments are extremely strict, like business. Other departments, but may not be as strict, but as a general rule of thumb, we just say to students, especially our new transfer students, that impaction criteria must be met in order to start the upper division major. Any other questions on that? Yes.
So what do you do if it's knocked out?
that's not really something we would be dealing with at orientation, because they're brand new. So the freshman hasn't even started their impaction criteria. And a transfer student, part of their admissions eligibility is meeting the impaction criteria, because they're coming in as a transfer student. So at orientation, we wouldn't have to worry about that. Yes?
Let's just say that hopefully this doesn't happen to like anyone. What happens if a student is taking courses and all that stuff to get to the prerequisites and to declare the major they want? And you said that if they don't have the GPA, then they can't get into like the majors. So do the student just drop out of college or?
Hopefully not. Hopefully we can come up with another solution. Again, that's not something we're gonna be working with at orientation, because these are new students. So if a current student is in that situation, what we would do is first encourage them to come into our office so that we can take a look at their record and try to figure out what their options are at that point.
So there is options.
Potentially, like for business, for example, if a student gets to a certain point and they're just not gonna be able to get into the major, they'll actually be moved to an undeclared. And so in that case, they'll come into our office and we will help them by going over different audits and different situations of what could they possibly then go to. But that's gonna be more things that are gonna be directed towards current students, not for our new students. Any other questions? Okay. Some majors have additional requirements. So majors could have additional requirements such as a language requirement, a study abroad or international requirement, or a minor requirement. And the students can find all of that information again on the major page. So I keep mentioning that, so let's look at an example of that. So let's turn to page 435. We're looking at a sociology major. So every major has a page that looks like this, and it's called a major page. Now, you'll notice I'm not calling it a department page, and that's because most of the time, if it's a sociology major, it's in the sociology department, so it'll say that. But there's some cases where that's not the situation, like kinesiology, for example, is actually in exercise science, exercise and nutritional science?
Yeah.
Thank you. So that's the department, but the major is actual kinesiology, and then to dial down there for the different emphasis. So that's why I call them major pages. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So this is an example of a major page. So on the left-hand side, you can see you have the information about where their office is, what their contact information is. It lists out faculty. It tells you about the major. And then on the lower left-hand side, you can see that this is where their impaction criteria is listed. And remember, every major is impacted, but every major will have their own set of impaction criteria. And then on the right-hand side, as we drill down a little bit, this is where the actual major starts. So you're going to be able to see all the information for that major. So it talks about the preparation for the major, talks about the GWAR, it talks about, when it just says major, that means upper division major. This major, it looks like they require something additional that we just talked about. Can anyone tell me what that is? So every major has prep, upper division, impaction criteria. Some majors have additional information. Or different. What's that?
The language requirement?
The language requirement, yeah. So this major has an additional requirement of the language requirement. Other examples are, like I said, study abroad or maybe a minor requirement. If a minor is required for the major, where you see the major in bold, you're going to see a little paragraph sometimes, and then right before preparation for major, it will tell you if a minor is required for that major or not. Okay, and then if you come down here and you look at the major, this starts to give you a breakdown of what's required for the upper division major. some additional things to know about a major. So, really important, courses that are graded credit, no credit, may not be used to fulfill upper division may not be used to fulfill requirements in the major, except for those identified in the course listing as only credit, no credit. So if a course is offered as only credit, no credit, that's fine. Otherwise, courses marked credit, no credit cannot be used to fulfill major requirements. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. So just because the student can change, because the system will allow you to change it from letter to credit, no credit, doesn't mean they should. Okay, and then don't forget that there's minimum credit requirements overall. So like the 120 minimum and 40 or 45 upper division units based on the type of degree. We talked about this before, but that's different. The overall minimum requirements are different than the upper division units required for the major. So let's look at some examples of that. So for example, if you turn to philosophy major page on 384, we can start to see what the philosophy major requires. We can see that a minor is not required for the major. We see the preparation. We see this major has an additional requirement of the language requirement. It talks about the GWAR. And then under major, this is where you're going to find what the minimum number of upper division units for the major is. So what is the minimum number of upper divisions for the philosophy major? 27 upper division. And what type of degree is this student pursuing? A BA in liberal arts and sciences. So if I ask the question, what is the student's upper division unit requirement, their overall upper division unit requirement, where would you find that information? In the graduation requirements, right. So you would go to the unit requirements and you would look at the type of degree and you would see it's 40. So that's different than the upper division major requirements for the philosophy major. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Do we want to look at another example? Okay. So if you turn to page 168, and you look at the major page for the chemistry major, we're going to look at the emphasis in biochemistry. So how many upper division units are required for chemistry, emphasis in biochemistry? 36. And generally, especially the ones that I'm going to be asking questions about, generally it's in the very first sentence. So you don't have to go through and start adding things up, it'll tell you. What kind of degree is this major going to lead to? A BS degree in applied arts and sciences. So how many overall upper division units is required for this student? Yep, perfect. That's what I wanted to see, was the flipping back and forth. So everyone understands the difference between overall upper division unit requirements and upper division required for the major. Yes.
So the 36 would go towards that 45.
You got it, exactly. Yeah, so that, thank you very much, because that leads me to my next point. Is that, most majors are going to be fine, because they're going to have enough upper division required, and then they have their 9 upper division GEs. So most students are going to meet that just with those two alone. Other students may need to end up taking some electives, like if you have a philosophy major that requires 27 upper division, then they have their 9 credits. And let's say they score a 10 on the GPA and they don't need additional writing for their major, they may then have to take electives, because they're not gonna be hitting their overall unit requirement for upper division. Does that make sense to everybody? Great. Okay, so what we are gonna do actually is I'm gonna cover minor requirements as well. So go ahead and flip back to page 90. Okay. So minor requirements. So a minor is only necessary if it's required by the major. So a student only has to take a minor if it's required by the major. If they choose to take a minor, that's fine as well. Same thing, courses graded credit, no credit cannot be used to fulfill the requirements in the minor except for those identified in the course listing as only offered credit, no credit. And upper division courses cannot double count between a major and a minor. Okay? So upper division courses can't double count between a major and a minor. So let's say it's a criminal justice major with a sociology minor, and they take an upper division sociology class for their criminal justice major. It cannot also count in the minor. They have to take a different course. Does that make sense? That's with upper division only. Yes?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, upper division courses can't double count. So my example was if you have a criminal justice major who has an upper division sociology class required for their criminal justice major, and they have a sociology minor, they cannot use that upper division sociology class in both the major and the minor.
You choose which one it goes to.
No, it'll go to the major automatically. You would have to get special permission via a petition to release it into the minor and then to find compensating a substitution course for the major. Yes?
If someone's a double major and they have overlapping courses, then no.
Nope. You can't use the same upper division class. The only time you can double count an upper division course is if it's also required for general education. So you can double count upper division major and upper division general education where applicable, or upper division minor and upper division general education. Yes?
In C for the minor, it says students seeking a second bachelor's degree in nursing and are eligible to declare a minor. Why is that? I didn't even know that was there's certain track for that.
It's because it's a second bachelor's degree, so this is only a certain number of students. These aren't students that come in as undergrads. These are students that already have a bachelor's degree. So they're not allowed to do additional things like minors and things like that. They're only here to do their second bachelor's. And nursing is the only program in which we offer a second bachelor's at SDSU.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So these are students that already have a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
You have something to add to that?
We just get that question a lot at the Office of Admissions, so I was just gonna add to
Did
that.
I answer it right?
Yeah.
Okay. And we will have some of those students at orientation, right? Second bachelor's degree in nursing? It's my experience, those students aren't interested in adding anything. They just want to come in, get their bachelor's degree in nursing, and head out. Any other questions? These are all great questions. Any other questions? Okay.
Could I add something to that,
Yes,
Heather?
please.
A big reason for that too is allowing, so if a student had already achieved a bachelor's degree and they're applying to SCSU for another bachelor's degree, that just means we're not allowing more students that haven't had the chance to even achieve a bachelor's degree into SCSU in the first place. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's just giving people who haven't had the opportunity to even achieve a college degree yet to achieve one. So that's why we only do second bachelor degrees in nursing compared to having that be like for all majors across the board.
I worked for institutions where you could get a second bachelor's degree in anything.
Yeah.
And that's just not the case here, because, and largely it's probably due to the fact that we're impacted.
Yeah,
And,
we're
and we,
impacted.
you know, have so many students that apply, and we can only take a small fraction of that really compared. Yes?
I don't know if I'm understanding this right, but does a double bachelor's degree mean like a double major?
Oh, so we don't have such a thing as a double bachelor's degree. If the student is here and they decide to take on a second major, that means they're getting 2 majors. They're not actually getting 2 degrees. Did I word that right? They get 1 diploma and they have 2 majors. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. So then how, could you clarify just like for the nursing?
This is a second bachelor's. So we only offer, only 1 major at SDSU offers a second bachelor's
So
degree.
you get 2 diplomas?
No.
No.
These are students that are, no, that's okay, it's confusing. These are students that already have a bachelor's degree in something else. And they want to be a nurse. So they have to have a BSN.
And they
in
come
order
back,
to-
yeah.
So they have a bachelor's degree as a requirement to get their second
Yes.
bachelor's degree in
In nursing, yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I was like, oh.
I'm sorry, this may be like, maybe you answered it already, like through that, but, so I'm double majoring in poli-sci and business information systems, but like, so my bachelor's degree will be under bachelor's degree of, bachelor's in science?
It'll be poli-sci. Whatever your first major is, will be your degree type.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay,
And then you'll have the 2 majors, but you get 1 diploma.
okay,
Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Your primary major is what drives the type of degree that you have.
okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Okay, so, oops, you can't see that. Okay, so you might remember this slide from way back in the beginning of the training. So we've now covered the 9 graduation requirements and one of the tools that students have available to them. So one of the tools that we've just been working with is what? The general catalog. So now there's these other tools that you're going to be learning in the next few weeks, how to use them and how to help the students learn how to use them. And it's going to be really important that the student understands how to use all the tools together. So remember how we talked about the schedule each semester and ultimately a student's degree being like a puzzle, putting together a puzzle. And these tools are what they're going to use in order to put those pieces together. So if they only rely on one of these tools, like the map, or they only rely on their catalog and they don't use the other tools together, they could get all the way to the end and find out they're missing something. And that's not good, right? So next session, we're going to be talking about the map and the personal information sheet and a little bit more about those. And then our final session before we go into review, we'll be talking about the degree evaluation. When we get to the degree evaluation, that is when we're going to put all the pieces together. That's when you're going to see how it all works together. We're going to spend quite a bit of time with the degree evaluation because although all the tools are very important, the degree evaluation is the only one out of all of these that is personalized to the student. So it has all 9 graduation requirements in this evaluation personalized to that student. So depending on where they're at. And then we'll work with how to use the other tools to help them understand their evaluation and then understand how to put a schedule together. Okay. On your outlines, I have the degree evaluation is actually called, on the outline it's called something else, and it says formally known as the degree evaluation. I don't know that the name is changing yet. That's a change that just came down. So I'm going to continue to call it the degree evaluation until I'm told it's called something else. So as of right now, it's still called the degree evaluation. If that changes by the time we get to session 7, I'll let you know. Any questions? Okay. So we're going to do a 15-minute break, so if you could be back at 4:15. We're gonna do an activity, and then we're gonna go over the answers of that activity.
Let me ask. Do you have to go afterwards?
You know, I try not to get them too often, because I don't want to, coloring my hair, but every like 3 months or so, my hair starts like, your hair's so dark.
It was so good.
Your last week thing would help you out if you have that. The one on the corner and all that. Yeah, like your last week's. Yeah, I have it. Thank you.